How to make champagne. The next part of our journey into champagne is to find out how these sparkling wines are made. So in this lesson we will learn about base wines and the champagne method. Remember how we learnt about the history of champagne and how bubbles kept driving the winemakers like Dom Pérignon mad? Well, today making champagne is all about purposefully creating these bubbles. As wonderful as the vine is, it does not make bubbly grapes. So to start making champagne, you have to start by making a still wine. This is known as a base wine. A base wine is made from grapes grown in Champagne. They are almost always either Pinot Noir, Pinot Meunier or Chardonnay. When they arrive in the cellar at harvest, they're pressed gently so the juice is clear. If a winemaker is making a rosé champagne, he will let the red grape skins remain in contact with the juice for a short time to give the wine a pink color. After the juice has been pressed and moved to a tank, it ferments just like a still wine. Different varieties from different vineyards are fermented separately. Once these wines have finished fermenting, you have what is known as the base wine or vin clair. These are highly acidic, young wines and taste quite different from finished champagnes. It is here that champagne makers turn into artists. They must blend many different base wines together into what is known as the cuvée. The champagne maker must see into the future and imagine what this blend of acidic and difficult wines will taste like years in the future. With the cuvée blended, the winemaker is ready to produce the exhilarating fizz champagne is known for. To understand how these bubbles are created, we're going to learn about the champagne method. The champagne method is how champagne producers get bubbles in their wines. Let's take a closer look at the champagne method by breaking it into 7 steps. Step 1. Bottling. The cuvée is bottled and sealed with a crown cap, just like you find on a beer bottle. As it is bottled, a mixture called the liqueur de tirage is added. This mixture contains yeasts and sugar that will create the next fermentation. The amount of sugar added is very important, as it determines the amount of gas that will be created. Step 2. Fermentation. The bottles are stored in a cellar for the second fermentation. The yeasts consume the sugar, releasing alcohol and carbon dioxide. Because of the strong crown cap, the carbon dioxide cannot escape and is dissolved in the wine. Once all the sugar is consumed, the yeasts have nothing left to eat and die. All of these dead yeast cells create the lees. It is this lees that gives champagne its delicious bready aroma and flavor. Step 3. Aging on the lees. During this step, the wine is left to age on the lees, and the process of autolysis occurs. Autolysis is the releasing of complex flavor compounds and aromas into the wine from the dead yeast cells. This gives champagne a wonderful rich palate of nuts, brioche and biscuit. Depending on the type and style of champagne, the length of time the wine spends on the lees will vary from 15 months to over 3 years. While the lees are great for adding flavor, nobody wants it in their finished wine. So after aging, the lees must be removed. This brings us to step 4, riddling. Riddling is the first step in getting rid of the lees. Traditionally, champagne bottles are placed in riddling racks like these that hold the bottles upside down at a 45-degree angle. Over time, the angle is increased and the bottles are slowly turned. This movement allows all the lees to settle at the top of the bottle. Modern riddling is automated and performed by a machine called a gyro pallet that can process 500 bottles at a time. Step 5. Disgorgement. In this step, the lees that has settled at the top of the bottle is taken out of the wine. In the early days, the cap would be popped off and the pressure from the fizz would shoot out the lees. The modern method involves first freezing the very top of the bottle before the cap is popped off and the frozen lees flies out. Step 6. Dosage. However a bottle is disgorged, a little wine is always lost and needs to be replaced. This is known as dosage. A mixture of wine and sugar is added to the bottle to top it up. This mixture is known as the liqueur d'expédition and determines how sweet or dry the final wine is. Step 7. Caulking. The final step in making champagne is to seal the bottle with a cork. Because of all the pressure pushing on the cork, a wire cage or muselet is placed and tightened over it to make sure it doesn't pop out. Now the champagne is ready. Or is it? Champagne can age just as well as many white wines, and depending on the producer, can last for up to 10 years or more. Well done on learning about how champagne is made. In the next lesson, we'll learn how different styles of champagne are made using this method.